Hello Fantasy Leaguers, I am your host Cody Gregory, and I want to say thank you for tuning in for another episode of Cody's Fantasy Corner. As I stated in the last episode, the premise of the show is to give you the best info for the up-and-coming week for your fantasy football leagues based on my own opinion and the research on various fantasy experts. Now let's get to it. I will start with a new segment, and I will jump into the Adam Drop'ems. I will give you players less than 69% owned to think about adding, and then players that are 70% owned or more that you should think about dropping. And these percentages are all based on ESPN, so just bear with me. Now, my first segment, and a new one, is what's grinding Gregory's gears. That's myself. I am not very happy with a man named Jamaal Charles, and I can only imagine that a lot of you are not very happy with this man either. We thought coming into the year that he would play at least in week 2, maybe even 3, and he only got a little bit of work in week 4. He had that bye, and then week 6, he showed us, some promise with the 9 rushes, 33 yards, and that touchdown. And we think he's back, but he clearly isn't. And Andy Reid is in no rush to, get him back out on the field with Spencer Ware doing so well. And I think that right now he is just, going to have to sit on our bench, and unfortunately, that's just something that we're going to have to swallow at this time. Now, as for my next segment, we're going to do the Adam Drop'ems. And with the Adam Drop'ems, I am going to start with Matt Asiata. Now, Matt Asiata has been, sharing time with Jerick McKinnon, and Jerick McKinnon has been injured. So I think that, with Asiata being the goal line back, going up against the Bears this week, only being 30% owned, I think that you could honestly pick him up and, use him as a flex or maybe even a solid number 2 this week. Hopefully he gets you that touchdown. Now for my next Adam, which I can only imagine a lot of you are doing, is Ty Montgomery of the Packers. Now, of course, I'm a Bears fan, and I didn't want to say a Packer, but you know what? This guy is really good, and he has shown a lot of promise, only being 29.5% owned. He is also wide receiver and RB eligible. I don't think that has ever been done in fantasy sports history where a guy has been eligible for 2 positions. I mean, last week he had 15 targets, 10 catches, 164 yards, and with those past 2 games. So I think that he has got to be a must-add, especially with Eddie Lacy being on IR and, going into week 8, lining up next to Rodgers. I don't see how he's not going to thrive. Now, for the next thing, we'll go to the Drop'ems. I've got a couple for you. And my first Drop'em is going to be, if you need to make a move this week with the 6 buys, you're going to have to go, especially with DeAngelo Williams. I know I mentioned him last week, but I mean, in all honesty, he was 79% owned 2 weeks ago, and now he's still 71% owned. This guy should not be owned right now unless you have Le'Veon Bell. And even with him on bye, I don't see why he would be necessary to be on your team. He's just not producing, and with his injury, I don't see him getting on the field and producing any time later this season. Now, the last guy I have, his name's Cameron Meredith. You guys know him if you're a Bears fan. He had a lot of promise with Hoyer in there. He's 70% owned right now, and personally, I don't think he's going to have very much production with Jay Cutler coming back, and especially with Alshon being his favorite target. It just doesn't seem logical to have him on there with all these buys. I think that you can find someone else out there to slot them in. I mean, maybe Golden Tate's still out there. I know I mentioned him last week as a drop, but I mean, if Theo Riddick is out, I think that someone like Golden Tate would be a good supplement for a guy like this. Now, don't forget to follow me via Twitter at AUCFC, where I will be answering any of your questions, for the upcoming fantasy week. And I just want to say from all of us here at AU Spartan Media, thank you and good luck.